Hello, everybody. This is Stephen Barchetti, your branding coach, bringing another interview to you today from the website. I have a author on the phone with us today. Lewis, are you on the call with us?
I'm here.
How are you doing today, Lewis?
Doing well. How you doing, Stephen?
Good, very good. I wanted to thank you for taking the time to speak with us and share, what you've been doing with LinkedIn. Talk about your book a little bit.
My pleasure.
Just to bring the listeners up to speed, what was your background before you got into the consulting you're doing now? What were you doing?
Sure. Well, I used to be a professional athlete, played arena football after college. That was really my main passion, I guess, and my main goal was being a professional athlete all through high school and college. And ended up having an injury, career-ending injury, then led me to have surgery. And I was in a full-on cast for 6 months after that surgery. And during that time, I was really trying to figure out what I wanted to do next in my life. I didn't have a job. I couldn't really get a job because I was kind of, disabled for a while. So I spent a lot of my time on LinkedIn, really, to try to find new opportunities. Probably about around 6 to 8 hours a day on average. I would spend using my time learning and connecting with people on LinkedIn and just really trying to figure it out and how to master it to the most of its abilities.
Cool. I mean, with me being in the social media space, LinkedIn definitely gives people the most challenges, and that's why I wanted you on my show, because you've actually written a book about it. What do you find was the most challenging for you to teach folks? What's the difference with LinkedIn and these other networks?
Sure. I think it's a lot of people have more challenges, I think, with LinkedIn because, one, it's just kind of, it's not as, I guess, sexy looking as it would be, Twitter or Facebook. There's not as much, I guess, fun things you can do on there, right? Not much like party type of fun things you can do on there. So that's one thing. Another thing, it kind of looks like a resume. Some people think of it as a resume, so they just kind of have bad, I guess, perception about it. But really, it's one of the most powerful social networking platforms online right now, due to the size of its network, the power of its network, and the functions within the application, within the site. So that's some of the things.
Well, if the listeners were grabbing your book to go a little deeper about this, what's the single line? What are they getting from the book? How to leverage LinkedIn step by step? Is that what your book would define for them?
So basically, LinkedIn is confusing. It's basically what it comes down to. LinkedIn's confusing. You don't know how you're supposed to reach out to people. You don't know how you're supposed to connect with people. You don't know how you're supposed to use the groups, the advanced applications effectively. There's just lots of things you can do wrong. So I just teach people basically 10 chapters. There's basically a principle for each chapter, and there's 3 sections in each chapter. So in the first part of every chapter, it talks about a real-world networking principle. And then in the second part of every chapter, we talk about how to apply that same principle offline to LinkedIn. And then in the third part of every chapter, we talk about that principle. We have someone give a case study about how they've implemented that principle on LinkedIn to generate success. So it's pretty much step by step. And then we talk about each application and ways to approach people on LinkedIn throughout the entire book. So it's a really quick read. It just kind of gets everything you need to get out of the site for you.
Cool. In other words, it is the layman's guide to being social on LinkedIn.
Exactly.
The crazy thing is, in this niche that we're in, helping people with these social platforms, nothing has changed. It's just the platform that's enabling the action. And it always makes me laugh. You go to the Christmas party or dinner party or wherever the social event is, you see people doing it wrong. You see people doing it right. I'm seeing folks like yourself have the big success because you're just showing them how to do it right. You don't walk up to somebody and shove your business card in their face. You walk up and start a relationship. You start talking with them.
Exactly. I think one of the keys, one of the parts of my book is really talking about just giving first. And when I was, in my cast and didn't have any income or didn't have a job, it was, I probably could have had all the excuses in the world to ask people to, help me find a job and do this and do that. But really what I did instead of that was I just connected people that I thought could benefit from knowing one another. So I would reach out to people in my network, I would introduce people via LinkedIn or via email and just say, hey, I think you guys could really help one another here's what Chris does, here's what John does. I think you guys could have a joint ventureship or some type of partnership and really help one another out. Let me know if there's anything else I can do to help. And I would do that a lot, just really giving of myself, my content, information, and connections to other people in my network. And the more I did that, it just seemed like people were gracious and they felt the need to give me something in return.
I think that's what I'm seeing, the common thread of everybody that I interview that's having success on any network. I don't care if it's Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, any of the big popular social platforms. They're doing exactly what you're talking about, and that's traditional referral-based growth. You know, give, like you say, it comes back because the person, that's just how they feel. Like, wow, this guy's really helped me out. I need to step up and do something for him, you know.
Exactly.
Because it's that two-way street. And I think that's why there's so much talk about the social media space, is that's the folks that are doing it right, like yourself, you know, that's what you're doing. And that's what you're teaching. And just like your case studies, you're seeing it work.
Exactly.
What were some of the biggest roadblocks you had in this momentum going for yourself?
I guess age, experience, and you know, I went right out of playing professional football, arena football, to you know, I never had a job for longer than 3 years, 6 months, really. Never had corporate experience. I was a young guy when I first started. I was like 24 when I first got on LinkedIn. So just kind of like everyone else had been, you know, on LinkedIn, basically has experience. Most of them were already like 5-10 year professionals, experienced professionals. So it's just a matter of how do I build credibility before I even have any, basically. So what I did again was just try to give as much content, information, help that I could to my network. And by doing that, that just kind of made me an expert in, I guess, networking and understanding how to use LinkedIn, and kind of helped me develop my platform from there.
Folks that you've consulted with, you told them what to put in place to see some growth. What were some of the strategies?
Sure. One of the things is it really depends on what each person's goal is, right? It depends on if they're trying to generate leads, if they're trying to drive traffic back to their site, if they're trying to become a thought leader, if they're trying to close a new business, right? So basically, depending on what your goals are, there's things I can teach for people, strategies, things they can implement to help them achieve those goals. So for one, you know, if you're trying to drive traffic back to your site, then creating a group, a niche group, and getting a massive following to join that group via LinkedIn, you're able to send a message once a week to those members, therefore putting a link back into your website and getting traffic that way. Also adding the blog application to your profile and adding some advanced features will allow you to drive more traffic. So it really just kind of depends on what your goals are, but based on what your goals are, there's always a way you can achieve them using LinkedIn.
The blog and the Twitter applications, is that fairly new to LinkedIn?
Yeah, it's a few months old, but there's advanced applications that I think are going to be rolling out more and more. It's going to get even more and more excited because they're designing it a little better. They're just laying everything out, and it's going to be really, really great in the future, I believe.
It looks like they're trying to embrace this whole social media so that more people participate because they see these other networks growing, you know, in leaps and bounds, and I'm sure they want to take advantage of that.
Exactly.
The groups that you mentioned. Now, I've done some same concept with Meet-In because those are very powerful, but I think the LinkedIn is even more powerful because, like I've heard you talk about in the past, these are business folks. When I've heard you talk about the lifetime value of the customer side of the fence, share a little bit about that side of the groups and LinkedIn's money, you know, what the decision makers, all of that side of it.
I mean, it's unbelievable because LinkedIn has the highest average household income over any other social networking site. I think it's around $108,000 is the average household income, as opposed to Facebook, it's like under $100,000. So it's extremely more powerful, and also the decision makers. There's, I believe, it's 45% of people on LinkedIn are decision makers. Whereas on Facebook, I think it's like 28% of the people on Facebook are actual business decision makers. So it's extremely more powerful, even though there's only 55 million people on LinkedIn as opposed to 300 and something on Facebook. There's more decision makers and a higher average household income per user. So it's extremely powerful.
I think the same thing, and it's because LinkedIn was, like you say, established as a business platform in the first place. You know, it wasn't established like a MySpace where it's a bunch of teenagers on there. I think that's why people really need to turn their focus back to LinkedIn and start making those connections like you're doing, because those are huge differences. I mean, you need to start focusing quality, not quantity, you know, because there's only so many hours in the day. So I think the path you've taken is great for just that.
Right.
Now, what would you say the best physical step for the listeners to take action on what we're talking about? What should they do tomorrow?
Well, one of the things is you really want to just start getting more active. So first off, you want to complete your profile 100%. So they give you kind of guidelines on what you need to do to take it from 50% to 100%, whether it be adding a picture, adding a past education, for a job description, things like that. So make sure you get it to 100%. The next step you want to do is really connect with as many people as possible. The power comes within the network that you're connected to. So go into your Gmail or Outlook, connect with everyone that's already on LinkedIn. Add all your friends that are currently on there, not people that aren't on there, but just the people that are on LinkedIn. Send them all invitations to connect and start growing that out, because you want to have the larger first-degree network you have, it expands your second and third-degree network, which allows more people to find you, contact you, and hire you for your services. So first, complete your profile 100%, then grow your network and start building it. After that, it's a matter of joining groups, being consistent, updating your status, and making sure everything's in place so that when people reach out to you and contact you, you've got your profile looking nice and clean to hopefully help you achieve the goals you want to.
You mentioned you could do that through your email contacts. Is there an actual plug-in that's showing you who on your Facebook is on LinkedIn?
It's just like your email addresses right now. So you can either import like a CSV Excel spreadsheet in there, or it'll sync right with Gmail or Outlook. So unfortunately not Facebook yet.
Well, maybe that's on the horizon, because you know all of these network owners are thinking the same way. You know, how could we enable these connections, because it's better for everybody. You know, the owners, the participants, everybody.
Exactly.
I'm really appreciative that you're able to take some time here and speak with us about this. I have a link that's going to be on the website right below this interview, so I encourage anyone that has not taken action on LinkedIn to get the book. It's going to shave tons of time off of your learning curve. Lewis, how long have you been on LinkedIn now, total?
When did I get on? I got on in 2007, so the end of 2007, so probably like a little over 2 years. But the first year, 6 months to a year, I was on there for like 6 hours a day probably. So spent a lot of time on there initially.
Well, 2 years in the internet world is, you know, like dog years. That's like 10 years.
Exactly.
So that's very cool. Well, I am going to let you go, not keep you too long today, because I want to have you back, because we're going to have advancements. You're probably going to write another book here in the next year. So hopefully I could have you back, share with my listeners.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thanks so much. Bye-bye.